Hello and welcome to episode 51 of my Working with Todoist series. I think my guest star appearer here is little Barney. He's joining us today in this episode 51. You gonna look at the camera, Barney? No? You're gonna look at the camera? No? Okay. Right, so episode 51 of my Working with Todoist, and today I want to actually move into a little bit more about labels, because from my GTD series, GTD plus Todoist series, a few people were asking questions about labels and why labels are so important. Now, for those of you who've read this book, this amazing book, it's almost like a Bible to productivity geeks like myself. What David Allen focused on was labels, or context as he calls them, in a kind of just before the pre-digital world. So we have like internet, online and offline, which today is very rare that you're going to be in an offline situation. And there's so many more tools that have come about over the last 14 years since the book first came out. So what I want to do is I want to go through my labels and how I use them and how you can use them to get a better perspective on GTD and exactly how working with GTD and Todoist working together. So let's go into Todoist now and have a look and show you. I can show you how these labels work and how you should be using them on a daily basis. Okay, so let's go and have a look. Right, so here I am with my labels section open in Todoist. And by the way, I should just point out, I know that we always had this green option, or I've forgotten the name that they call that Evernote called it. Hang on, we can just have a quick look. Todoist settings. What do we call this color? We call it Clover. Absolutely fantastic color, by the way. Anyway, that's beside the point. So labels, yes. Now with these labels, since the GTD book was first written back in 2001, we've actually moved a long way into the digital world. And so I have, for example, a label here which could be called any device. Now, back in 2001, there was no iPhone, there was no Android phone, there was no Windows phone, there was no iPad, there was no tablets as we know them today. So things have changed since then, and now we have a lot more possible labels that we could be using. And if you remember from GTD, we shouldn't necessarily be working from the today list. We should more be working mainly from the tools and people and places that we are at. So I covered this in my GTD series on with Todoist. But what I wanted today to do was to show you how I'm using my labels. Now, normally the way I work, I don't work in an office as such. I do have an office, but I don't spend that much time there. I prefer working, because a lot of my work is writing and content development, I prefer working in coffee shops. Now, I could have created a label called coffee shop, but it depends on the kind of day I'm with. And I have devices. I have an iPad, I have an iPhone, I have a MacBook, and I have an iMac. And I use these devices in different ways. So for writing, for example, I use my iPad. And I have a writing label here. So all my current writing work is actually in here. So for example, I got to write my Medium blog post tomorrow. I would edit my Medium blog post on Tuesday. Continue writing Todoist book. I'm writing a book on Todoist at the moment. And develop the inspiration story for Death to I Stock Photos. Those are my current writing projects, if you like. Now, in true to GTD fashion, I wouldn't actually be using dates, but I do tend to use dates a lot. But for me, writing label is the label I would click on when I get into the coffee shop, and if I only have my iPad with me. I would have a quick look at iPad label as well, because I got remind mail students of their classes, but this is a iPhone or iPad. Update notability on Jeff, because I call my iPad Jeff, by the way. I keep a lot of my teaching materials on my iPad in Notability and remind MAL students of their class. Well, I could do that on either my iPad or I could do it on my iPhone. And so another one is like I have my iPhone. There's got quite a few items on here. A lot of these are time or date specific, but here's one: sort out my banking certificate on my iPhone. I've got no date on it. It's not urgent, but I need to sort that certificate out, so it's on here. I've got some specific dates in here because some of these are routines. These ones with green, by the way, are all routine items, and they just come up. And I would check this on my iPhone when I'm on the subway or on a bus. I have a label here called Dr. Min, which is a person I'm working with. These are questions that I want to ask him. And I have another one I think I have another one down here called Chris Min again, which is, again, something that when have a meeting with Chris Min, I can actually ask him about that. I have one here for students, so speak to Mina Choi about doing workshop with quintiles, etc. I have nothing in my planning or research, or I've got 2 research here. Oh, that one can be deleted. By the way, easy enough to delete labels. You just click on the side, just delete the label. Yes, okay, I want to do. At Rankyong, as most of you have been following my series, you will know that I've got, my wife is called Rangyong, so we can actually talk about things that I want to talk to about here. Recording, a recording I would do at home, and so on. So these are all my labels that I have at the moment, and I strongly recommend that you review these part of your weekly review. So I know that there are occasions that I will have something in planning. I know occasionally, quite often, I will have something in research, and obviously waiting is a label that is recommended in GTD. But really what you should be doing, if you're using a pure GTD system, you should really be working from your labels list rather than working from your today list. Now, I know that we all have unique ways of working with this, and we've probably modified GTD for our own lifestyles. I'm essentially a remote worker. I work with many different companies. I'm freelancing, so I can pretty much work wherever I want. One of the things, though, that I should point is I have a design label. And the reason I have a design label is because although I suppose I could create a presentation on my iPad, I do find it rather difficult to do so. And I'm rather limited with typeface and fonts. And so for me, design means either my laptop or my desktop, because that's where I prefer to do my design work. Equally, for pure writing, I prefer using my iPad because I have the iPad Pro with the smart keyboard, and it's just an amazing device for writing. It's almost like distraction-free writing. And computer could mean both either my laptop or my desktop. So what I really wanted to do with this episode is to get you to think carefully about your working environment and indeed your lifestyle environment, and to really think carefully about where you will be and what device you will have with you when setting up these labels. And that's why I think if you ever do a brain dump and just get lots of ideas out into your inbox, I always think it's a good idea then to review your labels to see if they are up to date. If you notice down here, I actually have one for Twitter, which is just to remind me to tweet a YouTube video, which I try to do every day just to keep my YouTube channel active. So yeah, I think going back to this, I really think it's very important that you think very carefully about the labels you use in Todoist and how they will work for you. So although the original GTD labels were very, very good and were very useful for the sort of pre-digital age, things have changed now, and it's a good time to think about very carefully about your labels. Now, it really does depend on your environment, your working environment. If you work in an office, you probably wouldn't need as many labels as I have. If you work from home, maybe you need to distinguish between when you're working and when you're not working. And if you have much more freedom about where you work, like I do, where I can work from coffee shops or even from a park on a beautiful day. So think carefully. I always find that labels are really personal and they really have to fit your kind of working style. So these are the labels that I have. Yours, I'm sure, will be different. I hope they're different because they should be fitted to your lifestyle, not my lifestyle. And make sure you're working mainly from your labels rather than your dates. And hopefully you'll get closer to that GTD utopia that we're all striving to get towards. Anyway, I hope you found this episode useful. This is episode 51. Maybe we are going to reach episode 100 one day. So again, obviously, if you have any questions at all about labels and anything else that you'd like to ask a question about in Todoist, please leave a comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Once again, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you have a very, very productive week, and I'll see you in the next episode.